Hi everyone, this is Stan from Poland VC, and I'm going to walk you through the UA metrics template. I'm going to start by describing the template and the types of metrics that are tracked using the template. Then I'm going to move on to the naming conventions, and finally I'm going to fill out a sample campaign in the Empty Report tab. This spreadsheet is used daily by a UA manager to manually report on the campaigns and report any changes made. The reason why it is manual is because when you're just starting out and not running hundreds of campaigns, it is really beneficial for you to look at every single campaign every day and think a little bit about this campaign every single day. That's why I actually am against running complicated and automated dashboards when you're starting out. An important note here is that the spreadsheet records active ROAS metric, not the usual cohort-based ROAS. The difference between the two is that active ROAS takes into account all the cohorts that have been acquired during the campaign. So the new ones, the old ones, they're all blended together. Sometimes it is called blended return. And the cohorted ROAS stacks up the cohorts against each other. If you don't know the difference between the two, and you don't know how to figure out your active ROAS break-even points, please read the article on Poland VC blog about the most important metric to track when you're starting out. We're going to add a link to the article to the description of this walkthrough. This spreadsheet has three tabs: description, empty report, which is the one that you're going to use, and the report with sample data that is just for your reference. Now I'm going to talk about naming conventions. It is really useful to establish the naming conventions for your campaigns before you start running them. This will allow you and your team to understand immediately what are the campaign parameters without actually going into the campaign settings. There are many ways to name your campaigns, and I'm just going to show you the one that I've been using and the one that proved working quite well for me. So the first one is in the cell A7, and it says CG iOS US. CG is casual game. This is the name of our hypothetical app. Then iOS is the platform and US is the geo. The reason why I don't include any more information in the campaign name is because depending on the platform, you don't really set anything up on the campaign level other than the campaign goal. For example, on Facebook, you would usually operate on the ad set level. That's why the second line here, A8, is about the ad set level naming conventions. So for the ad set, you would start with the same code as you used for the campaign, and then you would move on to the audience, optimization, creatives. So in this case, audience is a 1% lookalike on the top 20% buyers. The optimization is value optimization, and the ads are dynamic ads. If it was something else, I could have a core audience, then it would be core. For example, if I'm using my competitors, it would be comp interest. If I'm using app event optimizations, it would be AEO, and if I'm not using dynamic ads, it would be something like fixed ads. Finally, it is extremely useful to develop keywords for describing the different actions you're taking on your campaigns. Here I just listed the basic ones. Start 150 is a start of an ad set or a campaign with a budget of $150 per day. Stop is the stop of the campaign, or the pause technically, and B200 to 400 is an increase of the budget from $200 to $400 per day. I'm not mentioning here any overall budget just because usually you would run campaigns on a daily budget without any total budget assigned to them, because as long as the campaign works well, you'd want to keep it. Now I'm going to move to the Empty Report tab, and I'm going to fill out the report with the sample campaign data. So I'm going to start with the ad network, and I'm going to type in Facebook. For the campaign name, I'm going to use the sample campaign name that I provided on the description page. For the ad set name, same thing here, sample name. Ad set ID is something that you would get from your ad network dashboard. be it Facebook Ads Manager or something else. This is really important and useful to track it, because then later you can just copy this ID and filter by this ID in your Ads Manager, and it will allow you to find the campaign immediately. So I'm just going to put some sample numbers there. The budget is our daily budget, so I'm gonna put $150, and the cell on the left in yellow is actually showing the sum of all the active campaigns, so that you know how much you're spending per day. And start date is going to be today is November 29, 2019. Now, when you're starting out, the first day of the campaign is day 0. So the only thing that you actually record is that you started the campaign with a budget of $150. For the next days, you're going to log onto the spreadsheet and put in daily data. So I'm just going to do that real quick here for the next 9 days of the campaign. Now that the campaign data is filled, I'm going to describe it to you. So every day I was recording my CPI and my 28-day ROAS, active ROAS, and on the day 4 I realized that the ROAS is actually hitting the targets, and it's pretty good, 0.1 on the day 4. So I increased my budget from 150 to 250. However, on the day 9 I realized that the new users that this campaign acquires don't really bring me any value, so I stopped the campaign. Once I stop the campaign, I'm going to select all the columns that correspond to the campaign, and I'm going to move them to the right of the black divider. On the right of the black divider, you're going to have all the campaigns that you stopped. On the left, you're going to have all the active campaigns. This will allow you to see the historical data for years and years. Usually what I do is, once the spreadsheet becomes really long, I might either hide the rows or create a new one for the next quarter, for example, or for the next 6 months. Several notes here. First of all, here we are tracking 28-day ROAS, but this is not the only one that you can track. You can track many different ROAS points depending on your business. So you can just insert a new column here on the left and add there, for example, 7-day ROAS, 3-day ROAS, 14-day ROAS, whatever it is that you are tracking. And the second point is that here on the left you have a total column that tracks the total budget of the active campaigns, and it also tracks the CPI and 28-day ROAS of all the campaigns. Now, if you are running campaigns on one platform, for example Facebook, you can just copy directly the CPI and ROAS for all the campaigns for the period. If you are running campaigns on multiple platforms, it is going to be a little bit more difficult to calculate, but it is still doable. You would just take your overall revenues from paid users divided by your overall costs of the campaigns, and for the CPI, same thing, you would take the total number of users acquired divided by your total spend. This is going to be a little bit more laborious, but it's still really useful to assess the overall efficiency of your campaigns. Now I'm going to show you the report with sample data so that you can get a feel of how it looks like when you're actually running the campaigns and recording them daily. On the right, you have a campaign that was stopped after 3 days because it wasn't delivering the results. And on the left, you have 2 active campaigns, one for iOS and one for Android, and they both are still running. Usually what I do is I would highlight in green the campaigns that are still running, and I would highlight stop in red so that I know when the campaign was stopped later when I have many columns on the right. This concludes the walkthrough, and I hope it was useful. Please follow up with us with any questions or feedback that you might have. Thank you.